Hello, everyone. My name is Emma DiPasquale, and I am the Library Engagement Manager at Michigan Publishing. Thank you for joining my session, Measuring Impact, reflecting on the University of Michigan Press's COVID-19 response. In the next several minutes, I will provide a brief overview of what the press did in response to the pandemic. I'll review 3 different studies the press conducted to measure the impact of our response and speak to the steps we are taking based on what we've learned. On March 20th, 2020, about 2 days after the staff at Michigan Publishing vacated our offices, the press decided to remove access barriers to the University of Michigan Press ebook collection, or UMP EBC. The removal of barriers was decided upon with support from library leadership and the press's faculty executive committee. This was in response to the sudden restriction of building access and lockdowns, which, as many of you are all too familiar with, left many faculty, students, and librarians struggling to maintain continuity of research and learning services. We made all 1,500 titles in UMP EBC available to read for free, but not download. We shared this widely on listservs, social media, and through our personal networks. Initially, we had planned to close access again at the end of June, but extended the free-to-read period, which ultimately ended on August 31st, 2020. The reimposition of access restrictions on UMP EBC at the end of August was a reluctant move. However, as a business that relies on sales revenue to sustain our budget, we couldn't afford to maintain free access indefinitely without really revisiting our business strategy. Even though the immediate benefit for users of free-to-read content ended in August, we are very eager to learn from the data we gathered in order to shape our future business strategy. We conducted several studies, but I'll reflect on 3 here today, including the IP Registry Analysis, our Google Analytics analysis, and the qualitative feedback we received from Qualtrics surveys sent to our main groups of stakeholders. With the generous pro bono help of the IP Registry, the global IP address database for libraries and publishers, we analyzed weblogs from UMP EBC for the first period of free-to-read availability, from the end of March to the end of June 2020, to try and understand the pattern of logged and anonymous use. Logged use is traffic that can be recognized as coming from a static IP address and thus connected to an institution or organization. Anonymous use is traffic that cannot be associated with a static IP address, although the protocols managed by INA can allow the association of this traffic with, for example, a particular country. The IP Registry weblog analysis revealed 85% of use of UMP EBC came from outside institutional IP ranges. Of these anonymous or fairly anonymous uses, 43% came from the US and 57% came from other countries. The top 10 countries are listed here on the left. Of the uses recognized as institutional, users from 739 institutions or organizations use the collection. The institutions came from 65 countries, and although 80% of use came from the US, outside of the US, we saw significant use, and the top 10 countries or territories that users came from are listed here on the right in order of volume. The proprietary Google Data Studio reporting implemented on the UMP EBC homepage provided a similar but less detailed message to the IP Registry analysis. The attractive Google Impact Map, listed here on the right, and designed by the Library Information Technology Group, was implemented on the site and provided a daily snapshot of the spread of use. Between March 20th and August 31st, there were over 135,000 unique page views from almost 40,000 users. 43% of use, again, was from the US, but the top 10 regions outside of the US included the UK, Turkey, Canada, India, Germany, Italy, Russia, Australia, Hong Kong, and Brazil. The report also showed the top 10 titles used during the period listed here on the left. Several are open access. The sources of sessions were very interesting. Direct traffic to the UMP EBC site accounted for 53% of the traffic, while referrals from other sites, such as Crossref DOI service, accounted for 36% of traffic. Social media accounted for 8% of the traffic, with Twitter beating Facebook and LinkedIn far behind in terms of source. Libraries that included free-to-read titles in their library guides also accounted for traffic, including LaSalle University, Oxford, St. Andrews, Harvard, Central European University, Yale, MIT, and the Free University of Berlin. You'll see here two different maps that compare usage from the same period in 2019 and 2020. The number of users of UMP EBC more than quadrupled and became much more global when the collection was made temporarily free to read. The darker map on the right shows much more use, and the larger circles reflect more users. During the period of the Free to Read initiative, we conducted several surveys with key stakeholders to get a sense of their reactions to the initiative. Respondents to our survey of authors were overwhelmingly positive, with a 97% support rate. Quotes from their responses filled out a picture of a group of scholars grateful for access, especially on behalf of their students. While we only implemented a pop-up survey of readers on UMP EBC relatively late in the process, we received a large number of responses. What was striking from these responses is the geographic spread of use and the degree of interest outside of the academy. We received tons and tons of responses, which I would love to share with you all today, but I'll share just one or two. One user said, "Please make more materials open access. It would help world scholarship a lot. I'm from the Philippines, and much of our research would be better informed if we had access to the materials." Another user said, "I think the initiative to make usually incredibly pricey books easily and freely available is great. I was really excited when I found this website, and I will ask if my previous lecturers, since I already graduated, know about this. If not, I will share this link, and I think they might share it with current students as well." Despite the limited term of free to read, the University of Michigan Press learned a lot from the experience. Many other scholarly publishers who undertook similar initiatives are also studying what they learned, and the results are starting to be released informally through conference presentations like this one. The bottom line is that if a press is able to make its books freely available in ebook form, untapped global demand for the sorts of scholarship university presses publish emerges that is entirely at odds with the popular perception that monographs are, quote, just books that don't get read. We learned this not only from statistics, but also from the feedback collected from real individual users whose gratitude for access is not only moving, but inspiring to us as a publisher and to authors who have written their books with the expectation that they will get read, but rarely get such direct feedback. These results have suggested several actions that the press is now taking. The majority of UM Press sales are currently in North America, but there is clearly untapped demand for ebooks in other countries. We've signed a license agreement with JISC in the UK to make UMP EBC easier to buy for those libraries, and we are also exploring a relationship with a sales agent for India, a growing economy where we saw a large amount of free-to-read use. Even when books were free to read, the libraries that had purchased the ebook collection and had cataloged it were still the highest institutional users. This has led us to focus on making sure that it's very easy to turn on EBC collections in the Alma Community Zone and comparable services supplied by EBSCO and OCLC. We have particularly focused on ensuring that UMP EBC open access books are easily available to include in a library catalog, even if a library can't afford to purchase the collection. The high quality of our MARC records we can provide libraries is in part thanks to the work of the University of Michigan Library Technical Services Department, and we've heard from libraries that these enriched records make a big difference. Lastly, we plan to create more international pricing discounted based on the World Bank classification of country by income level. Even with this cheaper pricing in place, the comments we received indicate that readers without institutional affiliation might still be unable to get access. In the longer term, we're exploring opportunities to expand open access availability of press publications with the end goal of making all specialist monographs published by the press, at least those of which we have ebook rights, open. This is something that we've really actively been working on in the past couple months. Most recently, the press has decided to move ahead with an open access model we've termed Fund to Mission, with the goal of flipping a majority of our frontlist titles to open in the next 3 years. We hope that by implementing this model, we can continue to provide equitable access to users across the globe and facilitate the kind of reach and impact we saw during the pandemic. Thank you so much for listening in to this presentation. If you have any questions about anything I've shared here today or next steps that the press is taking, please feel free to email me at ejdip@umich.edu. Thank you.